those who are not able to attend can still was this experience na or virtual class para kung ano man itong nag-transpire sa adong klase, they'll be able to also learn it, no? So, mag-update ng ni class before I start the class, no? I'll first update you of your B section 4B of your learning activities, no? Ma-mention lang kung sinong wala naka-submit. Okay, so aside from the vision mission learning activities na ginatag ko sa VLE, ang ari di subong sa record ko pa lang ay announce ko pa lang kung sinong wala. Ang ano pala na siya, ang about pala na siya sa analytics application kasi sa Data Privacy Act na to na topics, no? They are 15 points each. Okay? So, di ko i-mention inyo nga mga scores, kay mga tag-as man yung scores, no? I-mention ko lang kung sinong wala ka submit, no? Sang ano particular learning activity. Actually, isa ka class nga learning activity ng analytics application, gini-stop ko na ning pag-allow sa responses. Okay, long overdue na gini siya. Okay, para sa dason maubra kamo on time kung anong dapat ubrahon nyo. Okay, so si Alessandra, okay, kompleto. Ang duwa ha, ang duwa pa lang na siya ha. Next we have Lisa May, complete man siya. Si Bernabe, Joyce Bell, kasi Jean Lauren Biliosis, wala sila gid naka-perform no, sa learning activities nga duwa. Sinaf, okay. Joseph, okay. Si De Pedro Daniel Joy, wala gini siya sa perform sa duwa activity. De Goma, Geraldine, okay, may kulang siya nga Data Privacy Act, wala siya ka-respond. Okay. Si Sheena, okay. Eunice, okay. Danica, okay. Si Michelle Rose nga Fahemulin, may kulang siya nga isa, ang second nga learning activity that's about Data Privacy Act. Si Rawilin, okay. Ace, okay. Si Rastenberg, may una siya nga analytics application, wala yan ma-respond, no? Wala siya ka-perform. Jo Marie, kulang si Jo Marie sa Data Privacy Act nga response. Si Michi nga Lazaro, okay. Garamay, okay. Colleen Rose, wala agad siya ka-perform. Gusto ko ni kas may katawag. Ay. Dari lang gid class sa di disable ko ano. Dari lang gid class sa sorry about that class, okay na. Nanawag lang gid importante. Okay. Din ako to where did I stop? Jo Marie, may kulang isa. Michi, okay. Garamay, okay. Si Colleen Rose Momblan, wala gyud siya ka-submit, wala gyud siya ka-response sa duwa ka learning activities. Justin Faye, okay. Joanna, okay. Joyce Marie, okay. Eileen, okay. Christopher, okay. Mary Jane, may isa ka nga kulang about sa analytics application. Shella May, okay. Medley, okay. April Rose, okay. Glyzel May, okay. Jolina, okay. And si Jan Rose, may kulang siya nga isa ang analytics application.
Excuse me, ma'am. De Pedro, ma'am. Ma'am, naka-answer ako kang tanan ka ra, ma'am.
Muguro siya De Pedro ang email address nga wala ko ma-identify kay hindi bala descriptive sa imong name dalaga. Ay. Feeling ko ikaw gid ni.
Yes, ma'am. Daniel Joy. Ang D-A-N-E, ma'am.
Dali lang. Ito yung bitaw mga results ng test. Oo, ka may isa ka email address nga wala ko gid ma-identify kung sino. Ang si Jo Marie Lampasa, guro diyang sara nga Gmail ayo, ang una. Naging question mark kung ba't wala pa man siya nagreklamo. I-mention nyo class sa akon kung nakasubmit ka mo kag wala ko man kaya mo gani gina-announce ko para nga ma-verify ko sa inyo.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
imo siguro Daniel, ang Daniel Joy
Yes,
06
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
nan kay wala mo ginagamit sa insakto nga ngalan mo. So ikaw ni siya, i-note down ko lang kag i-update ko lang akong record karon ha. Okay. Feeling ko Jumardi mo ni gurong isa kada nga giblis kada ngaran. Tulad ko lang na-realize. Dali lang gid ha. Si Daniel Joy sa B ni siya. B. Daniel apelyido mo Daniel?
De Pedro, ma'am.
De Pedro. Sige. Duwagin ni duwa ni kay wala ko ma-identify kung sino. Imo
Yes,
jo,
ma'am.
ano ko? Imo
Good
jo.
morning, ma'am. Ay,
Oo.
hindi. Videos, ma'am. Nakasabot ako sang isa, ma'am. Isa lang yawra ako masagtan. I think.
Yosis. Yosis Jean. Jean Lordin, no? Sige, i-note down ko lang Jean ha. Ang may mga concerns i-note down ko lang kay taon
Yes,
ko niya,
ma'am.
basi diri lang natin. Kagi reach out ko lang kamo kung wala gid ha. May isa ka nga nasabtan. Una ako ni
Yes, ma'am.
kaduwa.
Ang ikaruwa yata, ma'am. Kay,
Kaduwa.
kay kang last nga pag-attend sang class, ma'am, late yata ako nakasulod. Ako nakaano sang ang info, uriro no, kumaan nga may quizzes. Kaya
Dapat
wala
yun,
ako pamangkot.
class dapat kina-visit
Sorry,
yung
ma'am.
ang BLE natin ha. Ang BLE ang
Kahit
service niyo.
kang time ka to ma'am by and down ang VLE ma'am ang andong model so wala ko gid na check up la ma'am kay dugay nga na down ang
Modugan
VLE
dyan. Sige. Da mga pila ka date. Dead.
pila ka
Mga
days ma'am?
last week oh. Tapos may mga time nga down di man siya. Pero class from time to time i-check nyo lang kay ga okay man siya dayon, no? Except lang ka last week no pila ka days kag nag-announce man ng university tanong nga amo ka to. That's why
Yes, ma'am.
in-extend na.
Mura ko to ma-check ma'am mura nga tulad lang ako naka-answer I mean kagabi ako naka-answer sang isa tapos yung
Nan.
isa mura ko ma-answeran.
Oo, kagi disable ko na tong una kay dugay na gito ha.
Yes ma'am sorry
Pero
ma'am.
sorry kanimo kay wala timo score. Pero
Okay,
anyway, lesson ra kaninyo class ha. Okay, so kung may valid gid risk nga kamo nga reason kung wala ka mo ka-take sang first, pwede ko reconsider kag ipakuhaon ko mo sang lain nga learning activity. Kung valid pero kung hindi valid, hindi ako sino mag-consider ha. Kung dumambal ka nga nalipat ka lang or hindi na siya valid. Okay, meaning kapabayaan mo na gid na iya. Okay, so bawi kita sa next naton nga mga learning activities. Kay may isa pa ko nga ipaobra sa inyo nga ang latest na subong nga topic no nga wala ko to ma-upload pa kay ginahulat ko nga matapos ani ang subong nga i-discuss ko pa. Sino pag na may hambal kay na about sa ilang learning activities kasi wala ko ma-record. Tapos class paki-remind na lang sang kasang classmates yung kato nga wala gyud perform ano ni sila man nag-untat na gid ni sila. Okay? So si Jean kasi i-check ko ni ang iyang ay sus ano ni mo kato na. Goodness. Okay. So let's move on unless you have more concerns before we start with our class. Okay, mga klase na ko. Wala na kita. Some other concerns. So let me share with you this presentation. Okay. Class kinantaw nyo man class. Ang ako nga gin-upload, ang last nga lecture video nga gin-upload, gin-share ko sa inyo sa VLE. Wala. So i-discuss ko na lang gid sa subong no. Kay kinahanglan naton mabalaan ning mga topics before the conditional statements nga amo na tani yung intent ko nga i-discuss. Okay? So can you see the oops.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean the presentation, yes. Okay. Sige, dali lang gid. I-reading view ko lang. Okay. So our topics today will be about the Python operators, the variables, the data type, and the conditional statements. No. Then after which I'll do some demonstration about how we are to make use of how we perform the activities in Python programming. So let's move on with the Python operators. So I think you're familiar already with the following topics na because you had already encountered this in your previous programming courses. Familiar na kamo sini, hindi na ako masyado mag-discuss no, gid mayad. So operators in general are used to perform operations on values and variables. These are standard symbols used for the purpose of logical and arithmetic operations. So there are different types of Python operators. First we have the arithmetic operators. So very familiar kita sini because in our math subjects, no, in our mathematical computations, we are always using this no, operators, or we are performing these operations. No? So arithmetic operators are used to performing mathematical operations like the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So these are the operators under the arithmetic operators. And these are the description and the syntax if you are to use them in Python programming. So plus sign for the addition, no, that adds 2 operands, minus sign for the subtraction, which subtracts 2 operands, and asterisk for the multiplication, which multiplies 2 operands. The slash for the division float divides the first operand by the second. It displays no the results with decimal values. Next, double slash for the division floor. It divides the first operand by the second, but without decimal values or places. Whole number, iyang ang gina-display ng result. Next, we have here the percentage sign for the modulus. No, it returns the remainder when the first operand is divided by the second. Okay, later I'll be having a few demonstration of how it works no, in Python programming. Then double asterisk to mean power. It returns the first raised to power second. Okay, so in performing calculations, no, how does the Python language interpret the formula that you will be making no, in your Python programming? So we have these what we call rules to follow. Okay, so we consider the order of operations, especially if in an equation or in a mathematical expression, there are varied and many operators no, involved. So we have here, the first priority is the parentheses. Okay, if you can see that in a certain equation or mathematical equation, there is a parenthesis, you have to first perform it, no? What's inside. The second priority is the exponent. Okay, the power. Okay, kung may makita ka dira nga may power, no? Pag may multiplication, unahon mo si power over multiplication. Next, our next priority is the division, the multiplication and the division. So, si multiplication and division are of equal priority. That means whichever comes first in the equation will be performed first. Or we are to do the left to right order of computation, no? Kung sinong una, okay? Kung sinong sa left, ang muna-unahon ta. Kung sa division una, no, i-divide ta anay. Tapos i-multiply, okay? Next, addition and subtraction is also the same no manner in computing the multiplication and division. I mean, ang order of priority, they are of equal priority, no? So whichever comes first in the equation will be performed first, or we follow this what we call left to right order. Okay, so kung si addition na nag-una ga-appear sa equation, so si i-add ta anay, or kung si subtraction naman ga-appear over the addition, then i-subtract ta anay. Okay, so we don't necessarily, or we don't just automatically compute no the operators in left to right order regardless of its order of priority no, dapat i-consider tagid no, otherwise masala aton sabat. Okay, so I would like to give you some specific example about how the order of priority works in arithmetic operations. So example, this is the mathematical expression. Now we have here 5 plus 10 divided by 2 times 5 minus, no, naka inside the parenthesis, 50 minus 40. So our first priority is the parenthesis. Therefore, we first have to compute the 50 minus 40. That's why 10. Okay, so si 10 diri una na compute. So bring down na ana ang the rest. Next, so after this, okay, ang next natin nga priority is the division and multiplication. But since they are of equal priority, unahon tanay sa division, okay, kay una saya diri nag-appear sa equation. Hindi nga i-divide mo, hindi nga i-multiply mo anay. Okay, kay lain na sa karon result niya. Okay? So, gin-divide ta anay sa si 10, no, sa 2. That's 5, okay? Bring down ang the rest, no? So, 5, no? Times 5 minus 10. So, after this, so we have here 3 operators left, the plus, the multiplication, and the subtraction. So, since priority ta sa multiplication, unang tanay multiply, no? Hindi, kung i-add mo anay, no? Kag multiply no. Wrong na siya. So, this would mean, okay, 5 plus 25. Okay, kay malain na yung result niya kung i-plus mo anay, no? Kagi times, right? Okay, so that would mean 5 times plus 25 minus 10. So si plus kag si minus are of equal priority. So that's the time we are to follow the left to right. Kay para sila, no? They are of equal priority. So i-plus ta anay kag i, okay, kag i-minus. So kung i-minus nyo abi, okay, may mo siya 15. Kung ginuna mo minus, may mo siya nga 15 kag plus 5. Anyway, parehas mo yapon sa button. Okay, so 30 minus 10 would mean 20. So, bisa ni-check nyo pa na class sa inyong Excel or sa inyong scientific calculator, ang masabat niya sina is 20 gid siya. Right? So, that's also how the Python language interpret the formula that you'll be making if you are to perform operation using arithmetic operators in that particular programming language. Let's move on. So if you are to do the coding, no, using the arithmetic operators in Python programming, so granting, no, we already have here the variable, no, a and b. So the value for a is 9 and the value for b is 4. So maamon ni siya class, ma-remark na siya, no, wala na siya display, no, if you are to show its output, no. So these are the inputs, no, ang mga amon ni variables kag mga value. Kag operators, okay, variables, value, operators, okay. So we have here add, no? Variable add would mean a plus b. Okay, latawon ta karon ni result na. Variable sub would mean a minus b. Variable mol, multiplication ni, would mean a times b. And the division 1, a divided by b. Division 2, a divided by b nga floor, na floor nga division. So the modulus would mean a remainder sa A, i-divide mo si A and B, then it will display to you the remainder value. And then the power, okay, so P would mean, okay, the result of 9 times 9 times 9 times 9, okay? Power ni siyang symbol niya. So, we would like to display the result. Therefore, we are to use the following, the following function. So, print, okay, i-display niya ang results ng add, no? Ang add nga variable. Next, the sub, multiplication, division. May nakasulod. Okay, so this is the result of that code. So 13 for A and B because 9 plus 4 is 13. Okay, 9 minus 4 is 5. Okay, that's A and B. Then multiply mo si 9 kag 4, that would mean 36. Then divide mo si 9 kag 4, that means 2.25. Divide mo without decimal, okay, or remainder 2. Then if you are to divide the 9 and 4, ang remainder na is 1. And then if you are to get the power of 9 and 4, no, that means 6,561. Okay, so that's the output of this input data or input codes, okay, or code, or the result of the codes. So let's move on with the comparison operators. So comparison of relational operators compares the values. It either returns true or false according to the condition. So true or false na lang. Compare ta lang. So I also assume that you are also familiar with the following operators since elementary. So we have here the greater than, true if the left operand is greater than the right. Then we have here the less than, true if the left operand is less than the right. Equal to if both operands are equal. Not equal to, true if operands are not equal. Then greater than or equal to if greater than or equal to, true if the left operand is greater than or equal to the right. And less than or equal to, true if the left operand is less than or equal to the right. Okay, so these are the syntax of how we are to make use of those operators in our Python programming. So if you are to do the programming in a Python environment, So we have here the variables and the value, no, the assigned value. So class, if you notice, may ara kita nga single equal to, no? That single equal to is used to assign values to a particular variable. Okay, kung gigamito naman natin si equal to as a comparison operator, we have to use double equal to mean equal. Okay? So that's the difference. Kasi bala ma-confuse kung may single equal tapos no, may double equal, no? So ang single equal ginagamit mag-assign kang value sa variable. Si double equal ginagamit siya para mag-compare. Okay, as operator, no, to compare. So let's move on. So we want to display, no, the result of A greater than B. So is A, no, is A, which means 13, greater than B, which means 33. So let's find out later, no, the result, no, the output. Next, we have to compare also A, no, is A lesser than B or less than B? Is A equal to B? Is A not equal to B? Is A greater than or equal to B? Or is A less than or equal to B? Okay, so those are the inputs. Now let's see the output. Okay, so this is the result of that codes, no? So we have here the result, false, kaya hindi naman get the greater, si 13 sa 33, right? Because the value of A is 13, no? And the B is 33. And then, hindi man gid ti, oh yes, less than man gid si 13 kay 33, that's why true. Next, they're not equal, of course. They're not of equal value. Kay 13, 33, they're two different numbers or they're two different values. And then, of course, A is not equal to B. No, there are two different values. Okay? That's why true. Kaya they are not equal indeed. Next, A is not greater than B, of course, no, or not nor equal to B. That's why false. Next, we have yes, A is less than or equal to B. Okay, less than B. That's why true. Right? So that's how the comparison operators work in Python programming. Let's move on to the logical operators. We have here logical operators perform logical AND, logical OR, and logical NOT operations. It is used to combine conditional statements. So the following are the logical operators. Okay, we have the logical operators AND, OR, NOT. Okay, so logical AND, true. The result will be true if both the operands are true. Logical OR, true if either of the operands is true. Logical NOT, true if the operand is false. Okay, so this is the syntax. Let's see how it works in Python programming. So if you are to use it in your Python programming, okay, so granting that the A is equal to true, B is false. Okay, so let's print or display the following. A and B, okay, is A and B both true? Let's find out later the result. Is A or B true? Is A not false? Okay, let's find out. So the result is false for A and B because only A is true. The result here is true because there is a true value, that's A. And the result here is false because A is not false. It should be false for the result to be true. Okay, don't get confused. So that's about the logical operators. Okay, that's how it works in Python programming. So let's move on. Any questions so far? Okay, so let's move on. Okay, wala mo ka question pa man. So variables, what about variables? And I also believe that you're familiar with the term and you've been using this also in your programming courses before. So you see variables, they are names bounded to objects. They are names with assigned values. Okay? So variables in Python, we have here the variable assignment. If you are to assign a variable to a certain, if you are to assign a value to a certain variable, this is the format. Specify the variable name, then the value that you want to attach to such name. Example, A, the value of capital letter A is 5, and the value of small letter A is 10. Okay? Let's move on. So, in naming a variable, there are certain rules to follow. Okay? Hindi lang kung nga palagpat, pag gusto ka lang tayo mo variable, may mga considerations kita. So, in naming a variable, it must contain letters, numbers, or underscores. Other than that, hindi na siya acceptable. Okay? So, in naming, we should not start with a number, no? Hindi na siya pwede. Okay, so nag-start siya sa number, so ma-error na siya. Spaces also is not allowed. For example, at 3, no? May space 3. Okay, if you want to have a space, you may use underscore. Okay, A underscore 3 equals 5. It cannot be keywords na ginagamit na sa programming language sa Python. Like break, try, no? Nga may meaning na may store the value na siya lagi. Okay, ara na store sa library ni Python and so on. Next, if you are to name a variable, it should be short and descriptive. Okay? Para dasig mo siya ma-identify, matandaan. Kag this, dasig mo mamalaan kung ano yung purpose. Okay, or function. Next, it is case sensitive. Basta malipat kita, no? Okay lang sa email address, hindi siya case sensitive, no? Bisang kapital lang pag sulat mo kang email address mo, parehas, okay lang na gapon, parehas lang sila. But in Python programming, it is case sensitive. That means capital A equals to 5 and small letter a equals to 5 are two different variables. Okay? They are two different variables. Let's move on. So that's about variables. I will be using variables later in my demonstration in Python programming. Let's now move on to data types. Okay, there are lots of data types in Python, but I'll only be introducing the 4, no? Kay basic lang ato na ni class i-perform sa Python programming because base bago kita sa amon nga language, no? Although nga hulas lang ni siya gamiton, pero medyo we have to still familiarize the basics first, no, before we move on to the advanced level. Let's move on. So first data type I would like to introduce is the int. Int stands for integer. You are familiar with this, I suppose. So integer numbers, meaning they are whole numbers. It could be negative or 0 or positive, no? Like negative 4, negative 3, 0, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and so on. Another is float. Okay, float data type. Float data type means decimal numbers. They are decimal numbers like negative 4.5, negative 6.7, 8.5, 10.5, basta may decimal siya. They are considered to be float by data type. Next, we have bool. I don't know if I pronounce it correctly. Bool, Boolean values. Okay, it is either true or false, the kind of data type. Answerable by true or false. Next, str or strings. Amo din yung tawag nga text, no, the text type of data. Example, Python, love, joy, peace, and so on. And if you are to specify that a certain data type is a string, you are to quote it, no, single quote or double quotation. Okay, so that's about the data types. Okay, let's move on. Class, kung may mga questions ka mo or concerns nga gusto i-raise, no, before we move on, o habang gawa ka, ako pwede ka mo ha. Okay, batin na ka mo or say something lang. Okay, so let's move on with conditional statements. So conditional statements, you are also familiar with this because you're using this also in some of your programming languages like the VB.NET and other programming language. So, example lang ha, how does the conditional statement work, no? So, we have, suppose nag-abot ka sa balay mo, gusto mo i-automate ang imong decision making, kung late ka na nag-abot, order ka na lang food. Pero kung early ka pa or on time ka nag-abot, pwede ka cook food for yourself. Okay, so hindi ka naman umdom, no? Si computer na kuno abi ma-decide para sa imo kung ano man ang status ng imong pag-abot sa balay, something like that, no? So, let's just put it that way. So, kung late, ma-order food. If on time, then cook. So how do you automate? No? How do you design a program that will function that way? Okay? So condition statement concept is applicable to this problem. No? Kung problem man gina siya, kung amo man na imong gusto solusyonan. So I would like to introduce you the if-else statements of single condition. Okay? So may duwa kita diri ka if statements nga isa single, isa multiple. So the syntax for the if else statements is this: if you are to start with if, then specify the condition, no? Anong gusto mo anong basihan niya, no? Then this will happen if the result of the condition is true. You are to specify the statement 1. Pwede ka pag-ikabot ang statement 2, 3, 4, no? Kung true ang result, no? Kung true ang input niya, ang result ang in-input niya nga value. Else, meaning kung false, amo ni matabo, no? If display yan or execute niya ni kung anong state mo diri sa statement 2. Right? So, let's move on. Example, if you are to do this in your Python programming, ma-coding ka, this is the sample, no? If time equals late, then food will be ordered. Okay? Pero do hindi ni amo kay dapat may perform siya nga print and so on. Anyway, else no, statement 2. So kung ang results ng condition diri true, amo ni execute ni computer, no, ni Python. Kung false naman ang result diri, then amo ni execute ni computer. Okay? So karon ma-perform kita sinan sa Python tanga programming. I hope we still have enough time. Next, the if, else statements, no? Multiple condition ni siya class. May elif kita nga i-add. Kung sa VB.NET pa else if, pero in Python elif, else kag if. Okay? Anyway. So in elif, may other kita, no? Hindi lang tima true or false, kundi may mga in between pa kita nga mga conditions. We have 3 or more conditions, no, to be evaluated by the Python programming, by the computer. Okay, before it resort to else. Okay, last na naging niya nga resort si else kung wala naging isang true nga value siya makita. Okay, sa mga conditions na you specify. So, for example, assume a variable x. Okay? X. So, mabutang ka di kang value ni x kung ano, no? Ma-print siya sang positive na text if, okay, sang positive na remark if x is greater than 0. Okay? Kag ma-display naman sa sang 0 nga remark if x is equal to 0. And it will also display a negative remark if x is less than 0. Okay, so let's try to work this in Python programming, no? So that's about no conditional statements. Mula na introduce ko sa inyo, no, kay para basics lang gid anay, hindi maglingin ulo nyo kay wala pa basic ka mo ka testing sini. So let's move on to the Visual Studio. Okay, I would like to share with you. Dali lang gid. Wala nag-open ako ng Visual Studio. Here. I hope makita nyo na class, nakita nyo. Can you see the Visual Studio screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so ka-dark sa iya. Sige lang. So, i-delete ko lang na ang, hindi. Ma-create ako sa bagong file para sa inyo. New file. Okay, this is untitled yet. Gusto ko lang i-save na siya as Python, no? This is how you are to do the saving, no, of a file using Python, no? You are to specify Python file type. So we'll look for Python. Specify 4B. Save. Okay, erase ko lang na yung mga results dili nga kagina pa to. So I would like to display first the string text, no? So therefore I will use a print value. And I'm sure you are familiar with print value, no? Hello world. So I want to display the hello world, no? So this is my input. To run the program, to display the result, click ko lang run program. Or click mo do run, start debugging. Or start run without debugging. Okay, so I'm just used to clicking on this button, run Python file in terminal. Okay, so this is the result. Okay, it displays to me, it displays the file location. And then the output, that is hello world. Okay, so kung mabutang ako diri sang sample, kung gusto mong butang sang text na hindi ma-display sa output, butangan mo siya sang number, no, sang number sign to signify that that is just a remark, no. Example, operators. Na-perform na kita operations, no. So, print 100 plus 100. I-copy ko lang pasang print pero hindi ako yawan ka. Okay. 200 minus 75. 75 times 2 times next 50 divided by 2. Next 20 to the power of 3. Let's see the result, no? I-compute ita na ni Python programming. I-run ko lang ni, tapos i-display yan yung result sa terminal. Okay, so I'll run the program. Okay, so if you can see, the hello world appears here still. Okay, kaya wala ko masyadong erase, no? Si operators, hindi na siya mag-appear because it's just a remark, no? I didn't specify print, I didn't use print function, no, for this. Anyway, nag-start sa number sign, that means it's just a remark. Let's move on. The result of 100 plus 100 is 200. Is it correct? The result of 200 minus 75 is 125. The result of 75 times 2 is 150. The result of 50 divided by 2 is 25.0. Gina-specify na decimal gid siya. Next, 20 to the power of 3, 20 times 20 times 20, that's 8,000. Okay, so that's how the Python programming works if you are to use operators. Okay? Next, magamit na kita variables class. Okay, so magamit ako na isang with variables na dyan. Magamit na kita sa comparison operators. So, example, let's first specify a variable here. So, let's say A is 10, B is 50, C is 25. So, print A plus B minus C. Okay, so still operator siya, arithmetic. Next, A is greater than C. Let's see, karon. Next, C is it equal to B. Next, magamit na lang ako klasang logical operators, no? So, A and kaya dapat true value ni siya, hindi ko ba nakagamit kaya may true. Sige lang, maano na lang gitang ako. B to the power of 2. Okay, so para hindi na mag-appear, i-erase ko na lang siya class para ma-focus na lang gina siya sa variables ta. I mean diriho, naging gamitan ta variables. So i-run ko ang program. Okay, so this is the result. So A plus B, okay, 10 plus 50 minus 25, the result is 35. Is it correct? Okay. Next, is A greater than C? 10 greater than 25? That's why false siya. Next, is C equal to B? Okay, so hindi man sila parehas, that's why false ang result. And then we get the power of B, 50 times 50. The result is 2,500. Okay, so that's how Python programming works. Okay, if you are to perform operations. So next, ma-true, false na lang ako bibigay. Nagkaring karon, sige. Balik ko na lang. So, let's say, ma-conditional operator kita. Conditional operators. So, let's say, D equals false. F equals true. E equals true. Okay, so print D and E. Tapunta karon result na. Next, E or E. Next, ano pagigani ang and or not, okay. D, not E. Hindi ako, ano ganing not na symbol, nalipat ako class out. Nalipat ako sang not nga, okay. Sang not nga operator, how? The not operator, logical not X. Okay. Not. Di na siya gali isa lang gali ang dapat nga i-butang D. not E. Okay, wala kita sang isa pag ka variable nga specify. So, mula ni ana yato ni execute, so i-erase na to ni para wala na may madugang diri sa result sa output ta. So, true or false man na siya gyapon klase, evaluate siya lang niyo. So, let's run the program. False because not D and E are true. Ang isa ya false, that's why false. True because the E value is true, bisan false si D, basta either lang may true. Okay? Next, false because E is true, dapat si E is false diri. Okay, so that's how the logical operators work in Python programming. Okay, so let's move on to the conditional statements kita. Conditional statements. So sa conditional statements, magamit kita sa if, elif, no? Elif. So ma-if kita na eh. So time. Example sa time ta, nag-abot ka late. Okay? Pas ka gina sa sample ta. So magamit kita if na ha. If, okay, if time equals late, okay, nagaga-error ako. If time equals late, print, sa lagi dyan. Time. Talang gitras. If time, kasi la ako yung gamit nga, dapat hindi single equal to, dapat double. Meron ko error siya. If time, kaya hindi siya comparison operator, class ng single. Kaya ang single equal to is used to assign value. Print, okay, order. Else, balik tayo sa puno gid. Meaning for false, no, false result, condition late, no, other than late, na mga input, amo ni iya i-display. Okay, so that's about, no, one line or single condition. So, ang akon diri nga gin-input class is late. Ang akon nga gin-input. So, kung true siya nga late, then amo ni display ni Python. Kung false naman, cook. Okay? So, run ko ang program. Okay, here the result is order. Why? Because the result of the input is true. Because I inputted here late. And that late means true. Okay? And therefore, i-execute niya niyang akong statement na specify. That is to print the order. That is to print the text order. Okay? But if I specify here otherwise, other than late, any nga value, like early, okay, kag-run ko ang program, ma-cook naman siya, nag-cook. Because it's a false input, no? So, wala sa condition niya. Okay? Meaning, ma-false siya sa else. Okay? And that is, display ang cook nga string. So, what if magamit kita multiple conditions, no? Kung may iban kapag nga specify dira, no? So, madugan lang kita diri, balik dito sa first line, elif, may isa kapag nga condition, time equals, specify mo di, example di, on time, okay, on time lang gid siya, time equals on time. Then, specify the statement here. Ano gusto mong matabo kung on time siya? Meaning, example, di ma-compute siya sang value. Print, ma-compute sabi 100 minus 50. Do kalayo ba? Pwede man na siya class, no? Okay, hindi i-text mo i-display, no? Kung on time yung i-display, i-input diri. So, ma-compute siya Okay, may mo sa compute sa 100 minus 50 or so on. So, pwede man nga text, no, string. Sige, sampulan ko lang ang sinabi. So, let's run the program. Ay, early ang ako yung specify, ma-false na siya. Pero kung butang ko di ang other nga term, okay, on time, abe, kay may condition na on time, kag nag-true siya, amo na-execute yo, ang tawon ko ano output siya. Okay, so gin-compute niya ang 100 minus 50. Okay, so pwede ka ka-display sang string na text, pwede ka butang ka statement ka nagka-compute siya. So pwede niyo na ma-perform sa iba yung mga purpose, no? Ipa-computeon mo siya kung true ang amo ni iya nga input. Okay? Kung ano pag i-display mo nga text. Okay? Using the what we call elif, okay, if, elif, else statement in Python. So that would be all for our programming. Basta dili niyo makita sa terminal ang result niya. Okay? Cook, order, and so on. So that would be all for our for our Python programming. I hope you've learned from the demonstration that I have shared. So any questions so far, class, about the topics discussed? Amo na lang man to, kay it's almost time. Okay, so paubrahon ko kamo, class, sang aton nga activity, at least may isa kamo ka activity nga maubra sa aton nga klase. So, depende sa inyo kung gusto nyo may partner kamo, okay, para may imaw kamo sa pag-work sa inyong exercise. Ulas man lang siya i-screen record nyo lang inyong gin-perform nga activity. Nga, ano ko lang, i-specify ko lang later sa aton VLE, no, mahatag lang ko to instruction as to how you are going to do it, okay? Anong gina-expect ko nga output nyo, okay? So, I hope you have already downloaded the Python program, no? Sa ginhatag ko nga tutorial ni Kevin Stratbert, kay nami to siya iyang demonstration, kay klaro, di katama. Kag kung hindi man magparehas ang version, kay nag-update ang version, okay lang, parehas man gyapon ang steps nga ginhimo sa kato. Okay, so as is lang man, sundon nyo lang gito, then hindi ka mo madula, no? Kung sundon nyo to. So that's about our class for today. Before we dismiss, I would like you to turn on your camera kay para maka-screenshot ako. Kaya aton attendance ni naton, no, sa klase. So get ready to ready na ta? Dalanggit class ha, okay. So, dalang pero willing na kagin pinti ka man. Sige, ready na ta? Turn on na ato yung camera. 1, 2, 3. Say cheese. Okay, thank you so much and God bless you all. Bye-bye. See you sa next natin virtual class.
Thank you, ma'am. Morning.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.